Human Services and Community Safety meeting, and I am hosting this with Councilmember Joel Navarro. Due to concerns over exposure to coronavirus, the city has implemented measures to protect our community, including the closing of council chambers and limiting public attendance to electronic means only. Members of the public may attend the meeting virtually through Cisco WebEx events or view the meeting recording by visiting www.tempe.gov/clerk for more information. It's important to understand that no formal votes or decisions about city programs, policies, or budgets will happen here. Our role is to explore various topics with staff and stakeholders and community members and to make recommendations to our council colleagues. We want this process to be transparent, inclusive, and easy for you to be a part of whenever you choose to be. And you can share your thoughts with us by filing a comment card about any item on a meeting agenda or by reaching out to us directly with any other thoughts, questions, or ideas. We need you to fill out the comment card in advance that can be read into the record for an agendized item. The link to the comment cards can be found on our committee webpage at www.tempe.gov/HSCS. And you will also find contact information for committee members and staff there for non-agendized questions as well. So I'd like to call to order this meeting on January 28th, 2022 for the meeting of the Human Services and Community Safety Council Committee.
Thank you. Dorian, I'll go ahead and start reviewing of meeting minutes. I move to approve October 22nd's meeting minutes.
And I'll second that. There you go.
Sounds good. All right. Public comment committee welcomes public comments according to the Arizona open meeting law. The committee may only discuss matters listed on the agenda. Matters brought up by the public under public appearance that are not listed on the agenda cannot be discussed by the committee. A 3-minute limit per person will be in effect, and comment cards have been submitted. And I think we have Christine Buckman. Or Tim, do you have the?
Yeah. Kristen's going to help me out and read
Okay.
in the comment cards that we have.
Got it.
Councilmember Navarro, Councilmember Garland, there were 7 comment cards submitted for today's meeting. The first 6 are for item 4A1, the Vision Zero update, and I apologize in advance for any barking in the background. Apparently there's something happening in the alley. My dogs are very excited. The first is from Emily Walsman, who says, Tempe City Council, thank you for taking my comment today. I am writing to express concern as a neighbor, parent, and Tempean regarding College Avenue between Southern and Broadway. I would like to request that the council consider additional traffic calming and safety measures for this stretch of road. I would like to see additional calming between Alameda and Broadway, particularly around Broadmoor Elementary and McCamey Academy. The tables are nice, but mimicking the calming that is on College south of Alameda would be great. Additionally, I would love the council to consider a roundabout at the intersection of College and Alameda. The project recently completed in Rio Salado and Ash is amazing, and I think that this neighborhood could benefit from a similar traffic calming effort. The reason for my request is that College is used by many in the area as a way to avoid rural and mill, but with College being heavily traveled by ASU students and faculty as well, and the walking students and families associated with Broadmoor and McCamey, the additional traffic needs to be eliminated. Thank you, Council, for reading my comment. I look forward to hearing about how we can get this executed. The second card is from David Sokolowski, who says the City Council did not reduce speed limits, and it will take decades to continue to engineer safe systems for our city. Many people will be seriously injured or killed, even though many could be prevented by adopting more appropriate speeds for our urban environment. In my own experience, I've heard more discussion about the quality of our pavement than the safety of our residents. When funding is available for road improvements, the City Council should always prioritize engineering safe streets. Crossing the street shouldn't be a matter of life and death, and recently a person was killed simply waiting at a bus stop. No one in our city should die waiting for the bus. I live right on College Avenue and frequently see people speeding through the area. It's difficult to cross the street and enjoy the area because traffic is so overwhelming. This is a street that is constantly active, and I see people walking their dogs, biking, and students throw a ball while they wait for the orbit. I've talked with residents who want improvements on College Avenue. I've listened to their comments at public meetings, and I understand their concerns from personal experience. As a member of the Transportation Commission, I fully support their efforts. The third comment card is from Kendra Flory, who says, "Thank you, council and staff, for your time and attention to this matter. As we just heard on the news, Phoenix may soon be following in Tempe's footsteps in adopting Vision Zero. I urge the committee to please consider what kind of example we want to be setting. Tempe has a long way to go to match what other cities around the world are doing to eliminate traffic fatalities and serious injuries. Reducing the speed of our roadways is an evidence-supported way we can do that, and contrary to what residents say, it is actually shown to reduce traffic congestion. Myself and a cohort of my neighborhood along College between Southern and Broadway are particularly concerned about the amount of speeding traffic we see along this area as our children commute to school in the bike lanes or on the sidewalks. If we reduce speed limits along Mill, Rural, Broadway, and Southern, to name a few, it will discourage motorists and also reduce congestion in neighborhoods. The National Association of City Transportation Officials has some data available for council review, and she has provided a link to the website for the National Association of City Transportation Officials, which you will have in the comment card. Thank you again. The next one comes from Hannah Belek. Thank you for keeping Vision Zero on your agenda. Though I can't make it to the live meeting today, I wanted to voice my continuing concerns about cut-through traffic on College Avenue between Southern and Apache. I hope that you'll encourage tangible action to achieve Vision Zero goals throughout the city through engineering and policy solutions, including lowering speed limits and making it easy as possible for neighborhoods to slow down or discourage speeding and cut-through traffic, and to make commuting by bike and by foot safer and more appealing to Tempe families." The next one is from Lori Sims. "As a resident of Brentwood Cavalier neighborhood, I am writing the committee today to ask that further considerations and accommodations be made to adopt more of the goals of Vision Zero to make our roads safer. In particular, College Avenue needs specific attention. This road is a regular part of my family's day. We walk, bike, and drive this street as it connects us to our favorite people and places, and yet we continually watch in horror the speed that motorists use on this residential stretch of the road. We have witnessed many accidents over the years, including ones involving children. With 2 schools and 2 churches positioned along its route, specifically between Southern and Broadway, it concerns us that the city has not paid more attention to making it safer. Our elementary school-aged children walk to school each day with a group of neighborhood friends. They are not alone on this stretch of street. It is an incredibly busy street mornings and afternoons as pedestrians and motorists mix together. What should be a rather mundane part of our day is one that gives me pause as I contemplate the additional risks this creates. Walking to school should be safe. Yes, everything has risk, but we can minimize that risk if speed is reduced. I ask that the committee continue to move swiftly to enact more of Vision Zero and specifically add extra measures to College Avenue." And the next is from Clifford Capria, who says, "I live just south of Broadway and College. I see cars driving at high rate of speed down my street of Palmcroft on a daily basis. I personally have experienced cars running through the 4-way stop on Alameda and College within the past year. Each vehicle was going at least 35 miles per hour, once on foot, and the other 3 times I was in my vehicle. It's startling to think that I would have been killed or seriously injured on a residential street only blocks from my house. City of Tempe and Vision Zero are failing at protecting our community. This needs to change." And the final card is for item 4A3, the Homeless Solutions Update, and comes from Christy Buchanan, who says, "How is the City of Tempe addressing refusal of services by the chronically homeless? According to documents provided by the HOPE team, little more than 25% of the homeless engaged actually accept services offered. Are those who refuse allowed to remain on streets and sidewalks, breaking laws with no accountability?" And that is the end of the comment cards for today's meeting.
All right, thank you very much, Kristen, and thank you so much for everybody who took the time to write in a comment card for us, and we hear you and we appreciate it. So the next item on our agenda is the committee sessions items. So we are going to move to 4A1. It's a presentation on our Vision Zero update, which seems to work out really great with some of the comment cards that were just sent in. So I'd like to introduce Marilyn DeRosa, Kathy Hollow, and Ellie Volleson to our meeting.
Good afternoon, everyone. Marilyn, did you want to do any kind of an opening, or we'll just take it?
Hi, I'm Marilyn DeRosa. I'm the director of the Engineering and Transportation Department, and I am going to let the staff take this since they're the experts in the field. So Kathy Hollow is our city's traffic engineer, and Ellie Volleson is with her. Ellie is our senior civil engineer in our traffic section. And I apologize with respect to the officers. You guys, you'll have to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Greg Bacon. I'm a sergeant with the Tempe Police Department's Traffic Bureau. I manage our grants and our selective enforcement areas.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Mark McManus, and I am assigned to the Tempe Traffic Bureau.
Hey, so I would like to share a PowerPoint presentation, but I am unable
No,
to.
hey, Ellie, it's Tim. I was just waiting to see who was going to share it. So I'm elevating you now.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, you should be able to.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. There we go. Okay, well, good afternoon, and thank you for having us here at your committee meeting to present this Vision Zero update. We met with you in August, I believe, and you asked that we come back and give an update, so we're here today to do that. Just to review, next slide, just to review Vision Zero. The purpose of Vision Zero is that it provides a clear goal of eliminating traffic fatalities and serious injuries. It is a council performance measure under safe and secure communities. And the performance measure reads that we're trying to achieve a reduction in the number of fatal and serious injury crashes to 0. Now, the next slide is very graphic and a little hard to look at, but we put it in because it's important. It's important to know that all these crashes impact people's lives, and this kind of humanizes what sometimes can be a statistic. Here's just a little snapshot of what we've been investigating, and this is number of fatalities for January 2015 to June 2021, and we had a total of 128 fatalities across the city. 92 involved people in vehicles, 28 were pedestrians, and 8 were cyclists. So again, just to kind of recap what Vision Zero is all about, I think you're familiar with this. And it's a policy that's focused on achieving safety for all road users. And the key principles are that deaths and severe injuries are preventable. We know crashes will occur, but the severity can be reduced. And finally, safety is really everybody's responsibility. We completed a Vision Zero action plan back in May 2019. Again, I think many of you are familiar with this. The program takes a 3-prong approach that includes engineering, enforcement, and education. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ellie to talk about what's in the plan and some of the statistics we found.
Thanks. So hi again, I'm Ellie Volleson. I'm a senior civil with the transportation group. So this might look familiar if you've looked at the Vision Zero action plan. This is the list of all the initiatives that we are adopting as part of that plan. So they're color coded. I didn't want to get into too much detail. Everything in green or blue is kind of either completed or is an ongoing thing. It's something we've started and we're going to continue to do, and there's no end date for that. Those highlighted pink are those that are in progress. So we've begun, and there will eventually be an end date, but they're in the works. And then those highlighted in yellow are the that have not been started yet, and therefore our future. So overall, there's 37 initiatives. Of those, engineering is kind of the lead effort on 29 of them, enforcement on 5, and education on 5. We've completed 7, and we have 15 ongoing. There are 4 currently in progress and 11 for future action. So I'm a fairly new hire to the city. I started in November, and since then I've been trying to work on some of these trends. The reason I want to look at trends is often there are spikes or dips in some data over 1 year, and that could be because of things we can't control in the culture, like a pandemic, for example. So we want to look at trends to kind of see how things are changing and what we can do to head things off. So in 2020, there were 16 fatal crashes in Tempe. In the first half of 2021, through June, there were 11. Crashes resulting in serious injury in 2020, there were 61. And the first half of 2021, there were 38. So the graph here shows in dark blue all crashes, the number of all crashes. And so we can see there was a dip in 2020, and that was most likely due to pandemic and just a reduction in travel. In the green, though, we see the percentage of all of those crashes that resulted in a serious injury or a fatality. And you can see that percentage is slightly increasing. So we're sitting at right about 2% of all of our crashes involved a serious or fatal injury. We'd like to look at the type of crashes that is. So this is looking from 2015 through the first half of 2021. Previously, rear ends were the leading percentage of the types of crashes involved in serious and fatal injuries. And that has recently been replaced with single vehicles. So rear ends are going down, single vehicles going up, and also side swipes in the same direction are increasing steadily. So this is looking at the percentage of all serious and fatal crashes that involve a pedestrian or a cyclist. Pedestrians are in green, cyclists are in the orange color. And we can see that we're sitting right around 16% of all of our serious and fatal crashes involving a pedestrian. And that is slightly increasing. The total number of pedestrian crashes is not increasing, so that doesn't become confusing. But the percentage of serious and fatal crashes that involve pedestrians is increasing over time. We're also looking at the percentage of serious and fatal crashes that involve drugs or alcohol. And that number is higher now than it was 6 years ago. So that's one of the reasons that education and enforcement are so important to this initiative. So I'm going to hand it over now to Sergeant Bacon.
Hello again, good afternoon. Thank you for having us. Obviously, the police department has a footprint involved. We've created a fantastic partnership with traffic engineering. And so on our side for Vision Zero, we created a mission statement, and our mission statement is to reduce collisions and enhance safety on our roadways through purposeful education enforcement. So everything that we do has a purpose, it's data driven, and there's statistics to back what we are implementing. So as we move forward, the police department right now and Chief Glover, we've implemented the 3 C's of the Tempe Police Department: community policing, community engagement, and collaborative leadership. So it is great to hear from the community, to hear their concerns, so we can evaluate and make sure that as we move forward with our projects, we're including the community's voice in our Vision Zero project. I want to thank Council for their continued support for the GOHS funding that we have. One thing that we're doing right now, it's a little bit different, noting that we have had an increase in bicycle and pedestrian involved serious injury and fatalities, is we're implementing a diversion program. We recognize that a large population of our state are people who do not live here 365 days a year. So there are some different laws that we have here pertaining to bicyclists, such as, do you ride with the flow of traffic or do you ride against the flow of traffic? And so the bicycle diversion program is geared for early intervention with juveniles as well. So our school resource officers have this program. They're going to be teaching it in the schools so that everybody's on the same page of what our bicycle and pedestrian laws are. If a pedestrian or bicyclist receives a citation, and in Tempe, they will be afforded the opportunity to take the diversion program at a nominal fee so that they can understand exactly what the bicycle laws are. Recently, and it's something we're going to do on a quarterly basis, Lieutenant McManus and I attended the homeless outreach and homeless feeding that occurred at JC Park. We had flyers created about pedestrian and bicycle safety, as well as handed out bicycle lights and flashlights so that people are illuminated as they're riding their bikes and walking in the evening. For some of the GOHS funded programs we have, this allows our officers an opportunity to focus specifically on our Vision Zero project. We have the bicycle pedestrian grant, the occupant protection grant, which focuses on seatbelts, understanding that in Arizona, a seatbelt violation is a secondary violation. So someone will not be stopped solely because of a seatbelt violation. If someone receives a child safety seat violation, we have a CAP grant, which is the child protection grant. So we're allowed to put on a class, and we disseminate by child safety seats as necessary for the individuals who attend those classes. And we're working collaboratively with our communities. We have some upcoming community meetings that are scheduled, and Lieutenant McManus is going to kind of talk about our traffic plan and what communities they are currently focused around. And again, the partnership that we have with traffic engineering and working collaboratively to identify human factors as well as environmental factors to reduce these collisions, educate the vulnerable road users. And we're defining those as people who utilize the roadways typically on foot or use modes of transportation such as bicycles that do not require an engine. So they operate at a slower speed than traffic that surrounds them. So I'll turn it over to Lieutenant McManus, who will talk about our next slide.
Can I just ask one question? Could you tell me what GOHS stands for?
It's
Please?
the Governor's Office of Highway Safety.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant McManus with the Traffic Bureau. I just want to start out by saying that Kathy said it best, that these incidents are all tragic in nature and they impact the community, the families, and the first responders that respond to these. So as a PD, not only in partnership with Vision Zero and the traffic engineering, we're looking at what can we do to do more. So as Greg said, all of this is evidence-based or data-driven. So we're relying very heavily on the last few years of statistics, combined with also what we call human intelligence, where our officers are going out in the field and what they're seeing. And with that, we developed a operation plan for the Traffic Bureau specifically that will take place during the 2022 calendar year. It's already started. It was implemented on January 1st, and it's Operation Saving Lives. So what we did with that data is we looked for areas of concern that are showing consistency, repeat events of serious physical injury, accidents, or fatalities. And we identified 5 areas. 3 of those are primary areas and 2 of those are secondary. And so on the screen, you'll see the primary locations, and that's Broadway Road from Priest Drive to essentially Farmer, which is just west of Tempe High School. And then Baseline Road from Rural to Country Club, and then Scottsdale Road from Curry or the Loop 202 to Continental Drive. So these are areas that we are increasing our education and enforcement efforts. And we implement the SARA model in the police department, which is to scan, analyze, respond, and then assess. So we have scanned, we have analyzed, we are now responding through education and enforcement efforts. And then we have developed what's called a study flag. So as officers make contact with pedestrians or motorists, they clear with a specific study flag, which then allows us to go back and analyze the number of contacts we've had, what they've been for, and then compare that to collision data to see if it's had the desired effect of actually reducing serious physical injury and fatalities in that area. So our goal as a PD, Greg mentioned our mission statement, but our goal is really to change driver and pedestrian behavior. And we're doing that through various education campaigns and then also through enforcement. Additionally, you'll see the signage here. This is something that we've been working with traffic engineering, and that's identifying areas where we could post signage for a safety corridor with strict enforcement, and that would also support Vision Zero. So this operations plan that the Traffic Bureau is following is it's a living document, a living plan that allows us to be flexible throughout the year if other areas present themselves. But right now we are interested in moving forward with placing the safety corridor strict enforcement signs in those 3 areas that you see listed on the screen. And I just want to say with the strict enforcement, a lot of people believe that is, if you get stopped, you're getting a citation, but we just want to reiterate that our goal is to change behavior. And the strict enforcement means that you will be contacted, but that behavior change may be through education, through conversation, or it may be through a citation.
Can I?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I just gonna make a couple comments on that last slide. I really appreciate the approach that you're taking with the safety corridors. I think putting up those signs and letting people know that we are really going to be in there and enforcing, I think is so incredibly important. I have a couple questions though. So, you know, we just heard some of the comment cards from residents about college, and I have been out there and sat on college to actually see for myself the speeds that are there, and there are kids riding bikes to school. What's your criteria for setting up safety corridors, and could college be a safety corridor?
So right now, our criteria, we're looking at it from specifically from data analysis on collisions. I recognize that college is an issue, and since I oversee the SEMS unit, we do have an active complaint right now that's open that officers are periodically checking on. Based on the comment cards today, I've already made a note to send an email out this week to make sure that we are paying a little extra attention to that location next week. We'll deploy our speed trailer as well, so we can get some data surrounding the best times to focus the education enforcement. And then, like Lieutenant McMahon said, since our traffic ops plan is a living document, should we see that, yes, there are significant issues in different areas that we haven't identified, these signs can be relocated as necessary.
Okay, so the safety corridors are set up by accidents, by crashes, not specifically by speeds, like overuse of speeds.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, it's part of the Vision Zero project to eliminate fatalities and serious physical injury collisions.
All right, I pray it works. Thank you.
Great. So more to the point on speeds. So I just want to go through a couple of the things that we are working on for the coming near future. One of those is a speed feedback sign pilot project. Yeah, and so this is, as we showed in one of the trend slides, our single vehicle crashes are increasing, and one pretty major contributing factor to that is usually speeds. So we're looking at these speed feedback signs. People might not even realize that they're breaking the speed limit in some instances. So a speed feedback sign, like one that just says you're going too fast or slow down, will help people identify that they need to be watching their speed. And so doing it as a pilot program, we can do kind of a before and after, so we can look at the speeds before implementation, after implementation, and hopefully, ensure that these are providing the desired effect. We're hoping that these signs can be mobile. So again, just like the safety corridor signs, if we identify an area where the speeds are an issue, we can move one of these signs over and leave it for a period of time and see if that helps reduce speeds. Yeah, please.
Lieutenant McManus again, I just want to jump in. So we have some secondary locations that I mentioned, and those are Curry Road between Mill and Scottsdale, and then Rural Road between University and Broadway. And that's one of the secondary locations I just mentioned on Curry Road. We're seeing that the majority of the collisions are single vehicle, and it's likely directly related to speed. So that's an area that we are working with traffic engineering for this pilot project. And possibly this might be better suited for also College Avenue as opposed to the safety corridor signs.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sorry, this is Councilmember Navarro. I love that idea. I think that maybe having that on College Avenue with concerns that are going on there, just to see what that does, I think that's appropriate. So appreciate you mentioning that.
Another of the issues we saw in our trend analysis was kind of the slowly increasing percentage of serious and fatal crashes that involve pedestrians. So we're looking at some ways that we can help reduce those pedestrian crashes. Just from surveying the data, it seems that a lot of those pedestrian crashes have to do with someone crossing outside of a crosswalk. So we're looking at putting in more mid-block crossings. And so there's several different treatments we can give to a mid-block crossing. We have pedestrian signals like the one on the far left, that's at Veterans Way right in front of the ASU Stadium. We could do just a high visibility striped crossing like you see in the middle, that's on 5th Street right in front of City Hall. And we just recently updated, we're working on updating our high visibility crosswalk standards. So I'll talk a little bit more about that later. The other thing that we would like to look at are these, you see on the right, rectangular rapid flashing beacons. So those are push button activated. They're usually combined with a high visibility crosswalk. the pedestrian would push the button and they get these kind of flashing lights. And that just indicates to the drivers that there's somebody about to cross or who's in the crosswalk. Another project we'd like to take on in response to the pedestrian crashes is a sidewalk infill. So we have gone through a ADA update where we made sure that we do a pretty good job of sidewalks on our arterial streets, but in our neighborhood local streets, these are our routes to parks, to schools, sometimes to transit, to our neighbors, and a lot of times, as we've heard from the residents, it's kids using these kind of collector and neighborhood streets. So wherever there's missing sidewalks, we'd like to update that and make sure that we're providing those. I think Kathy's recently put in a CIP project for sidewalk infill, so we'll be working on that as well.
I have a question regarding that. So my neighborhood is an agricultural neighborhood. And when I first moved into it, it drove me crazy that they were not sidewalks. They told me they were called white ribbons that go down the street. And so we don't have dedicated sidewalks. And I can't tell you how many times I'd not walked up and down the street when parents were dropping off or picking up and asking them to move off the white ribbon, telling them that is the only sidewalk our kids have, or they'll be going into the street to get into Wagner Elementary School. I've done that many times. So are you looking at something like that that does not have a dedicated sidewalk? Could that be something you look at for that neighborhood also?
Yeah, definitely. We want to survey all the neighborhoods, and anywhere where we're missing a sidewalk, we'd like to include that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, can I just add a comment in? This is Councilman Navarro. When I love the fact of enhancing the striping, green bike paths, where appropriate, kind of doing those square cutouts, the signage, the visibility of the flashing beacons, all that stuff. When I look at, and I'm just using college because it's been brought up here, and it doesn't have to, this possibly could apply with everything else. But when you have Broadmoor and not McCamey, or it is McCamey, I guess, Academy, in that area, I know we talked about with the bike lanes, what does it look like to have some sort of border, or I know we talked, or there's been in the past the collapsible, I don't know what they're called. Yeah, whatever they're called. Just between Apley and Broadmoor, in that section, if it's doable, and it just seems so complex because that's where the kids are either riding into school, getting on the bike to ride back home. But that area seems like, okay, during pickup and drop off and congestion, is there a possibility of a little more enhancement of protection in that area? Because I do know the Orbit has to, pull over from time to time. But when I look at that area, there's truly only maybe, you'd have to be a little bit before the Broadmoor to be picked up, or after Apley to be picked up. But it seems that's a possibility to maybe buffer a little bit more there, if applicable, within the area. I know there's some other cutouts and stuff like that for parking and things like that, but something to look at. That just came to mind.
Appreciate that. We'll add that to our list. Something to look at. Thank you.
Okay, so some other upcoming projects that we have. Leading pedestrian intervals are in the action plan for Vision Zero. And this would be, we would assess intersections where a pedestrian is not a common occurrence. So, drivers are not necessarily expecting to see a pedestrian in the crosswalk. So giving them the lead, so giving them the opportunity to enter the crosswalk before drivers ever get a green, could help them establish themselves and create more visibility and reduce any crashes resulting from that. So that's one thing, it's kind of our next step that we want to take a look at. We also, as I mentioned, are updating our high visibility crosswalks policy. So that has been drafted. We'd like to send it to some neighboring cities for peer review before it becomes finalized. But that would take a look at where we can implement high visibility crosswalks more often to get the best benefit. The continuation of some of our existing initiatives, including the safety corridor project that the officers talked about. or targeted education campaigns, like going to the homeless feeding, and the upgrading to our streetlights to LEDs, which have a brighter kind of result. That project is currently about 40% complete. The arterials have all been updated, about 40% of them. And then the civilian motorcycle school.
So I'll talk very, very briefly about that, as it's in the infancy planning stage. There's some surrounding agencies, Chandler and Peoria, that conduct a civilian motorcycle school. It's a one-day class that's offered free of charge, and motorcycle riders come out. There's about 10 people. It's capped around 10 to 15 people, depending on the location used. They bring in a doctor from Chandler Regional Hospital that he's a trauma doctor that talks about injuries. They bring in someone who's a helmet expert, talks about the proper fitting of helmets and selecting a helmet. And then the traffic officers, the instructors, motorcycle instructors go out and they do exercises and teach people how to ride a little more safe. And so that's something that we're looking into right now. I actually have all the paperwork from Chandler, so I'm going through kind of what they do, what that looks like. And I think, looking again at our police department's community engagement, community policing, and collaborative leadership, this aligns with that. And I think it'll also reduce the number of motorcycle involved collisions.
So just
It's a great idea. I love that.
And I'm sorry, one last thing on that. That will be requested through funding of the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. They do have a grant related to motorcycle education and enforcement, and we would target strictly at education and not enforcement to do that program.
So just finally, we wanted to wrap it up with what support we might need from council. Is just the continued support for our police department, support of our safety corridor campaign. As I mentioned, we put in a CIP for sidewalk infill. And as the officers mentioned, distributing safety devices at these targeted education campaigns can really help hit that home. That is what we had.
That concludes our presentation, but we're happy to take any more questions that you may have.
All right, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And Officer Bacon and McManus, thank you so much for being here and sharing this information with us, and for being at JC Park the other night. I was there. I saw you guys handing out those lights, and I appreciated that you were not only just looking out for the safety of the people that were there, but you were also handing out information, doing that education, but you're also building these positive relationships with the folks that were there. So I just can't thank you enough for being there. That was really important. So, I mean, I'm excited about these safety corridors, and with this Vision Zero, it's such a great program. And I know it's really important to all of us. And sometimes it feels like it takes us a while to get things going, but I know that this is important to all of us. And so I love the ideas of the safety corridors. I can really see that as something that not just that you guys see with accidents, but we see with, you also see with speeds. We hear from residents. There are other areas that some residents would probably think are really important places for safety corridors. So I'm sure, as you were saying, this is a living document. So it'll be great to see this area or other areas really get that strict enforcement set up. I would like to know if it's possible for us to do something online on our website somewhere with Vision Zero that shows the strategies that are in the Vision Zero plan, with information like right next to it, like you had that color coordinated, but can we put it up there that it's like that's also a living document showing us what we have already done, what we have accomplished, what is in the works right now, what are the things that are coming up, and when do we plan on addressing those? Because it would be great to be able to send our residents to that area, and then also have the links that gives more information about the safety corridors and how what the criteria is, so that if we can't give somebody a lot of information when we stand in front of residents and speak to them, we could direct them to that website that will give them a lot of information. Some of the stuff that you just showed us today would be really, really helpful. That's all I had, but thank you. Yes.
Councilmember, if I could jump in really quick, I forgot to mention to reference all the areas that we highlighted. We have a series of virtual meetings that are occurring. The first one is Tuesday, February 2nd, and they go until March, and they will be geared at all of the neighborhood associations that are impacted by these areas that we've identified. So I'm glad that you are in support of the safety corridors. I think that could be a great place to maybe jumpstart that and put out there that we are interested in that. So if
I'm
you're in
100%
support of
behind you.
that, we will mention that. But we sent out just shy of 3,000 postcards for those. So I don't know what kind of turnout we'll get, but people should be aware.
I will, if you want to, forward me the information that you sent out, I'll share it on my social media too. We'll get as many people there as we can to really listen to this. Joel, you had a question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And likewise for me too on that. And thank you, Doreen. That's actually just spot on. I think the other thing I just want to add, and it was stated before, obviously we have some concerns on College Avenue, but I appreciate you guys in the short term taking another look at patrolling that area. I think what they're possibly more referencing is that morning and after work time slot where they're seeing that cut through speeding going on. So if there's a possibility to take a couple patrols over there to monitor that, that'd be awesome.
Consider it done.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Thank you again for being here. And we'll go ahead and move on to our next item. So thank you for being here. We're going to go to 4A2, and it's a presentation on the Family Advocacy Center. It's an update, and we'd like to welcome Human Services Director Naomi Farrell.
Councilmember, sorry, it's Paul Bentley is going to be doing the presentation.
Oh, okay, Paul, come on down.
Thank you so much. I am getting the document ready to share.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. So good afternoon, council members Garland and Navarro. I am Paul Bentley, Deputy Human Services Director, and I'm here to provide an update on the Family Advocacy Center's task force efforts toward implementing a family advocacy center in the city of Tempe in fiscal year 22, this fiscal year. Mayor and council, with their support, appropriated funding to lease a facility starting this year over a 5-year window to implement this family advocacy center. And so we're here and happy to be here to provide an update on those efforts. The Family Advocacy Center directly aligns with 2 of our council priorities. The first is 1.29, achieve ratings of a strong, I apologize, I strongly agree with responses of having a better understanding of trauma associated with violence and its impact on the well-being and safety of my family, greater than or equal to 50% as measured in the CARE 7 Trauma Education and Support Services Survey. So a specific survey is sent out to our clients. And also Council Priority 1.05, which is achieve ratings for responses to when it comes to the threat of crime, how safe do you feel in your neighborhood? Between 80 and 100 on a scale of 0, not safe at all, to 100, completely safe, greater than or equal to the top 10% of the national benchmark. So directly aligned with council priorities, these specific priorities. We believe in a holistic trauma-informed approach to serve victims of crimes, with specific emphasis of victims associated with sexual offenses, domestic violence, and children. And the Family Advocacy Center is a centralized location in which individuals who are victimized of crime are able to receive services for trauma healing, counseling services, victim advocacy support, as well as integrating with law enforcement needs for investigations and other forms of supports that assist in the healing process for victims, as well as the judicial process of holding accountable those who have perpetrated crimes within our community. And so the expected outcomes for a family advocacy center, some of those expected outcomes include increased victim reporting of crime, reduced victimization, restoring victims and families' quality of life through the healing process, providing more focused education and increased awareness to prevent crimes, and to work hand in hand with our partners to solve cases in a timely manner and increase clearance rates. Some background, as some may have not heard about this process until recently, is that in July of 2020, the Family Justice Commissioner, Mary O'Grady, presented to mayor and council members the concept of a family justice or family advocacy center as part of the Family Justice Commission. From those conversations, staff was then given direction to explore this initiative and to create a family advocacy center task force to explore the process and submit recommendations to move forward. The Family Advocacy Task Force is comprised of members from Tempe Human Services, Arizona State University, the Tempe Police Department, and while I don't have their icon, the City of Tempe Attorney's Office, with great consultation from Honor Health. The key components associated with the Family Advocacy Center, to provide context for those where this is a new concept, is that it's a single facility for all services that includes a secure area for victims, victim advocates, law enforcement interaction. That includes administrative offices for work groups. That there are comfortable rooms for children, teens, and adult victims to receive services. That there's an examination room that is able to treat both children and adults, to perform SANE examinations and other forms of examinations necessary for the help and assistance of victims, as well as gathering of evidence. That there's our special rooms with equipment to be used for recording interviews. That there's dedicated interview rooms for detectives that are designed to promote positive interactions between victims of crime and detectives who are conducting the investigations, as well as separate areas for counseling services and trauma support, and that it would be located in a central location that is conveniently accessible for all victims. So these are the key components of the Family Advocacy Center. And in those components, once a facility has been identified and we are having our grand opening and up and running, the hours of operation for this would be consistently Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, understanding that victimization does sadly occur throughout the day at different hours of the day, and that the center is available for call-ins 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so those are the key components of this centralized location to assist victims of crime. Within the request to Mayor and Council was the CIP request and also general fund request for the lease and operations of the facility. There was not a request for staffing, because this is utilizing current staff within the Human Services Department, the Tempe Police Department, and Arizona State University Police Department to co-locate. And so as this slide shows, you would see at this center a victim advocate coordinator, victim advocates, a trauma therapist, crisis intervention specialist, victim services counselor, and actually Sully, our comfort canine. Tempe Police Department, in the utilization of this facility, would include their special victims unit sergeant and 6 detectives. ASU is committed to, at the onset of this operation, to include 1 special victims unit detective and 1 victim advocate, and there's conversation already in place for them to double that resource and availability in the services. What's also important to note is that through the conceptualization of this Family Advocacy Center, the Family Justice Commission conducted a research study throughout the state, going to Yuma, Phoenix, Mesa, Maricopa, the city of Maricopa, and other areas to see what are best practices for family advocacy centers in their structure and their construction. All of that has been incorporated in the design and actions of this group. So what is our progress? So while this progress update does show a January 2022 date, I do want to comment that work was conducted prior to this fiscal year through the Family Justice Commission and their great support of education and understanding of the value of a family advocacy center, that then transitioned to the budget request that Mayor and Council supported and was provided for this fiscal year through the next 5 years. Staff actually did conduct site visits of multiple locations in August of 2021, selected a specific location that we felt was ideal for this family advocacy center. Sadly, over 2 months of time of negotiation, that facility ended up, the owner and the city were not able to come to an agreement, and that was at no fault on any party, but just based on the best interests of both entities, it just was not going to be a good fit. And so while there was an attempt to work through a second location during that time as well, the Family Advocacy Center Task Force did come up with a similar response from the owner. The good news is that from all the work that was conducted in the fall of 2021, as far as space planning, locations, how the different organizations will work together, Honor Health's input as far as nurses support and so forth, all of that was utilized to create space planning that is pretty much a cut and paste into our current location that we're working on now. So I'm very happy to report that as those negotiations waned, The group then went back out on the streets, conducted more site visits of locations, selected another location in early January. Last week, we met with the architects, and so we do have another site that has been identified, a property selected, a space plan has been developed for review that is in its final review stage with our partners this week for feedback. And all that is happening now with the intention of the project moving towards a lease agreement, the tenant improvements, and then an occupancy approximately June of 2022. Our intention is still to remain to be up and running with this Family Advocacy Center, providing support to our community in June of this year, this fiscal year. Understanding, of course, with the current situation with construction, that we are very much aware of that, but we are pushing everything as fast as we can in a very purposeful manner, with very thoughtfulness, but as well as making sure that our speed maneuvers in a way that this is up and running in the near future. So once we obtain occupancy of this facility and start providing services to our community, the intention is to make sure the operations are running smoothly, that those that we are serving are getting the highest quality of service that they possibly can with the outcomes that we mentioned before, and at the same time preparing for what happens 5 years from now. And so, as in the last presentation, the update is to support that may be needed because of the great support that's already been received, and we're very grateful, is that we are proposing and putting together a CIP for the purchasing of a facility for this Family Advocacy Center to be a part of the Tempe community in perpetuity at the end of the lease process for fiscal year 27. And we are available for any questions that you may have.
I have to say that I am so excited about us moving forward with this, Paul. This is it's such an incredible program, and I am so proud of the work that has been put into this, not just even by staff, but of the Family Advocacy Commission. Mary O'Grady and there's so many others before that were, knew that this was really important. And Councilmember Cubey was somebody who was really supportive of this and pulled me in even before I was sworn into office to learn more about this commission and about this advocacy center that they wanted to have. So I just have to say, I'm so glad that we're doing this. And I'm glad that we have another lease property that we're working on. Just a question for the Tempe Leadership class has chosen the Family Advocacy Center as a center that they're raising funds for to, I think, get some items or do a room or something like that at the Family Advocacy Center. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I know that they picked that as the project. So typically they need to be done with their projects by May. So is occupancy in June when the building will be ready to get into, or will be the building be available before that, and then June is just when we actually open it up?
Councilmember Garland, thank you for the question. And yes, Tempe Leadership, we are so grateful for them to select this as their organization. And we are in communication with them on a consistent basis. It seems like it's weekly now because of exactly what you just mentioned, which is timing.
Yeah.
And so we are making sure that we are communicating with them any changes in our plan. And it is possible with our current timeline that Tempe Leadership could be within the timeline before we open the facility to do the work that they need. We're working with them, making sure that everything is overlapping properly. So yes, that is a possibility, and we believe that could happen. But with the conversations being so new with this new facility, while everything looks like it's going to work very well and very timely, it's hard to commit specifically at this point in time. But we will make sure that, and we are communicating with them regularly on what's happening, and we're so grateful for their support.
Awesome. Thank you, Paul. Joel?
Yeah, Paul, thank you. And great presentation. And yes, valuable for sure. When we talk about the whole around approach of just having the services policing, we talk about Care 7, mental health, all these things that help policing, that help public safety. These are one of those things that really goes along with it. So just for clarity, I mean, I think hopefully if I missed it, I missed it, but the support staff for the center, what exactly are we looking at in terms of support staff? There it is. I can't see it all too much, but what are you saying for clarity, just so we know?
I'm happy to comment on that, Councilmember Navarro. So So the support staff initially is inclusive of Human Services Department Care 7 employees, which is the Victim Advocate Program will be housed within this facility, the entire program of victim advocates. We will have a trauma therapist that will there to provide the healing towards for our victims and their families of crime, including counseling services. And we will have a crisis intervention specialist, and our comfort canine will be located there. That's all from Care 7 staff that we currently have that we will be co-locating within this facility. Tempe Police Department has committed to a sergeant within their special victims unit, as well as 6 detectives. And while we are in the process of getting this up and running, we're already talking about what's next and expansion of possibilities and what makes sense. Arizona State University, they will be housing a detective. And again, this is, we had our space planning meeting with the new facility this just recently this past Friday. So it's not directly shown on this, but they are looking to have a supervisor there, as well as the detective, as well as someone from their victim advocate program at the very beginning. And so those are the components of staff that already are working today within the city of Tempe or within ASU that would be co-located at this facility.
Okay, great. And then we'll keep a tab on what other, maybe whatever support, civilian support, paper, I'm saying just the administrative load of things to help the whole process function. Please keep us abreast on that. And then another thing is, have we reached out to ASU? I know that I just recently had a conversation with a John Relevis he's a director in business development, but he's also looking into part of the innovation and working with cities and fire and public safety and police on how to partner with various things. Has that name ever came up, or the use of ASU to try to, and like you said, even with PD and partnering with them, but innovation in terms of how the process and are we doing the process right? And is there any maybe other expertise or internships that could also help out?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Navarro. So as part of the agreement with ASU, which was not directly in this presentation, so thank you for the question, is that they have committed to assist in the research component for this center. So looking at how things are going and how we're presenting. So yes, they have committed to that. And then originally in addition to the research component that they have committed to, and I would appreciate that contact if you wouldn't mind sharing it, and we would be happy to follow up on that contact. In addition to that, there was a time with the past negotiations where funding was a little tight. And so ASU came to the table and came forward with additional funding as well to help support that. And so we'll see if that's necessary again with this upcoming lease agreement, but they have been a phenomenal partner.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Paul. And I'm glad you mentioned that about ASU stepping up to help us with the additional funding, because I think that's really important that we have the partner and the availability or ability to use and to talk to and work with ASU. And I'm really glad they did that. So thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, so our next on the agenda is 4A3, and it's a presentation on homeless solutions. It's going to be an update for us from Jessica Wright, our homeless solutions supervisor. Jessica.
Hey, Jessica, I'm going to try to unmute you now. All right.
Great. Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yep, we can hear you. Welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it. Tim, thank you. I appreciate your help with the slides here. My name is Jessica Wright. I'm the Homeless Solutions Manager for the city, and I appreciate you giving us the time to present our updates for our homeless solutions efforts throughout the city. Next slide, please. So the purpose of our presentation is to provide an update on these efforts, the homeless solutions efforts within Tempe, and that's going to include updates on our data collection efforts, as well as updates on our non-congregate shelter and temporary transitional housing, our ASU partnership, our recruitment efforts, the recent Project Connect event, and the point in time count. Next slide, please. So HOPE, just a little bit of background and history, was established in 2006 with 2 part-time outreach specialists. Basically, they provided street outreach, case management, and shelter services to folks that are experiencing homelessness on the streets of Tempe. Currently, HOPE has now expanded to meet the needs of the city with 11 HOPE specialists. They provide, again, a wide range of support to individuals experiencing homelessness on the street, which includes ongoing engagements to provide folks case management services, a direct connection into shelter services and out of homelessness. Next slide, please. Through HOPE's street outreach throughout the city, it's happening 7 days a week. This includes repeated ongoing engagement to build rapport and trust with individuals that are experiencing homelessness, with the main goal of connecting them with services and resources to directly get them sheltered and into stable housing. These services can include things such as obtaining vital documentation like birth certificates or IDs, items that are needed to enter housing, providing tangible resources sometimes like food or clothing, and providing a direct access point for individuals and families to enter shelter and get off of the street. We partner with our City of Tempe Quality of Life officers to provide outreach at encampments to individuals experiencing homelessness through every part of Tempe. Next slide, please. Our current data collection efforts include metrics that reflect every outreach engagement that HOPE specialists have completed. It includes if the interaction was a general engagement or if it was case management, as well as the location of in the city of where these efforts were taking place. And just to kind of give an idea, general case management, we kind of can define that as interactions to support rapport and trust building, and that can include providing tangible items as support like socks, hats, food, water. We typically have to have a lot of general engagements with individuals to build trust for them to accept services and start to work with us. Case management is pretty much defined as engaging in services or resources with HOPE, such as obtaining those vital documents for housing, reconnecting with a mental health provider, or accepting and entering shelter. Our data collection efforts also include collecting the number of individuals that accepted shelter and entered shelter through HOPE, the number of individuals housed into their own apartment from the street, and how many individuals HOPE was able to divert from homelessness by reconnecting them with their support system like friends or family and supporting them to housing through that. Next slide, please. So the current fiscal year of 21-22 data collection indicates that there was over 5,700 interactions in the community between HOPE and individuals experiencing homelessness so far. This number is clearly indicative of the significance and importance of ongoing and repeated interactions with individuals experiencing homelessness. We know it takes multiple interactions over time for individuals experiencing homelessness to agree to engage in services and accept shelter. HOPE uses rapport and trust-building opportunities to support individuals and families experiencing homelessness in connecting with shelter and housing. To date, this fiscal year, HOPE has had 125 people accept shelter, getting them directly off the street. These individuals were connected to the city's non-congregate shelter or partnering organizations' shelters. HOPE has successfully housed 43 individuals living on the street by assisting them in utilizing housing vouchers and programs that they were connected to, such as emergency housing vouchers, housing choice vouchers, or any other programs, and provided them assistance in securing and moving into their own rental directly from the street. HOPE reconnected 26 individuals that were experiencing homelessness with their support system so far this fiscal year for them to be diverted from homelessness and safely housed with family or friends. Next slide, please. So additional metrics are going to be collected in upcoming months to include the tracking of number of individuals by outreach zone. Also, data will be collected on what city and individuals' homelessness started, the number of new engagements, what resources HOPE connected individuals to, such as an emergency room, mental health providers, MVD for an ID, and if HOPE was able to provide any other tangible items, such as food or blankets or clothing or hats. Next slide, please. So now to provide an update on our temporary transitional shelter facility. All residents formerly at the non-congregate shelter have safely and successfully moved to the new shelter at the hotel, formerly known as the Roadway Inn. Resident room and laundry room renovations have been completed, and currently there is construction taking place on operational spaces with an anticipated completion date of next week, of the end of actually this current week. Hope staff are providing daily support at the shelter, operating out of a temporary space on the site, and rooms remain full, and as vacancies come available, Hope team members that are doing street outreach are filling them with individuals that are willing to accept shelter during their street outreach efforts. Residents are reporting high satisfaction with the rooms and different amenities like the laundry rooms especially. So as for an update on our non-congregate shelter facility, we're really thankful for the opportunity to operate an additional 50 rooms of non-congregate shelter. This is really exciting for both our team and our city. And at this time, Homeless Solutions and the Social Services Division are in the process of finalizing operational and programmatic preparatory steps for entering individuals experiencing homelessness into those rooms. Next slide, please. Thank you. So an update on our ASU partnership, which is really exciting for us. Our new ASU partnership was implemented January 1st of this year and has allowed for us to add 2 additional Hope specialists to the Hope team. This increased our number of Hope specialists serving the city of Tempe from 9 to 11. We reorganized our outreach strategy to basically expand so that Tempe has 4 specific geographical zones, each with a dedicated outreach team, which is going to allow for Hope to provide service through street outreach 7 days a week also instead of 5. So this approach more evenly distributes resources among high demand areas. It provides consistent outreach from our Hope specialists in those areas and a more visible and consistent presence, which supports more frequent and proactive engagements with these individuals that are experiencing homelessness. Next slide, please. Like I was saying, these are the outcomes, like I said, we were hoping to see from this new strategy, which, again, just including a more even distribution of the Hope outreach efforts, consistent and visible presence, and more frequent and proactive engagements. Next slide, please. So our recruitment efforts, now that we have these additional positions, we are really excited to have some qualified candidates to speak with. Out of the 11 allocated outreach specialist positions, there are 3 permanent Hope specialist position vacancies, as well as the 2 ASU funded positions for a total of 5 available positions. The recruitment process is in the interview stage with 5 highly qualified applicants scheduled for interviews on the 2nd of February. However, we're going to be keeping the recruitment open and posted should we need to review for another round of candidates for interviews. And just to touch on an update for the Project Connect event that happened January 11th at the University Presbyterian Church in Tempe. The event itself was hugely successful. Basically, there were over 30 community resource partners that came together to table the event, where resources were provided for individuals experiencing homelessness. These resources were accessible at one central location with a unified goal of supporting these individuals into shelter and housing. Preliminary data showed at least 155 individuals experiencing homelessness were served at the event, with approximately 40 speaking with the team at the Tempe Works booth. Hope specialists spent the day providing transportation for individuals wanting to attend the event from various points in Tempe, and then returning them to their destination at the end of their stay. And Hope was very effective in providing additional services, such as Hope housed a father and his daughter who were living in their car directly into the shelter at the event, as well as a single male who engaged with the Hope team and accepted shelter directly from that event. So we're very happy with the outcomes. Next slide, please. So the point in time count occurred this week on January 25th, 2022, from 5:30 a.m. to 12. and we had a great turnout. Volunteers completed training and they were excited to participate in the event. We utilized CDC precautions and recommendations and social distancing, providing masks and sanitizer as well at the event and to the individuals that we were outreaching to do the survey and the count. We had a strong response from the community for volunteers at the event and actually had to create a wait list for participation. And the most recent point in time count in 2020 resulted in approximately 400 individuals experiencing homelessness in Tempe. Our count this year was paperless, which is very exciting because it allowed us to have some initial preliminary data in real time. The preliminary numbers did indicate a slight increase from 2020, but we're working to get the finalized data so that we can share that with the city and mayor and council. And that should be within upcoming weeks that we're receiving that information from MAG. And next slide, please. And those are the main updates that we wanted to go ahead and cover in this presentation. And I'm open for any kind of questions or comments as well. Thank you all for your time.
Jessica, thank you so much. And I'm so glad that you are with the city of Tempe, learning about your background. I'm so glad that we have you with us. So thank you for being here. The roadway in, I went by the day after it was opened and it was amazing. There were a lot of people already checked in. So I'm so glad that the city of Tempe got that approved and got that going. So the HOPE team, so the zones will start, are they starting now for the city or will they start as soon as those other additional positions are filled?
So we've currently already implemented that strategy and we are utilizing the 4 different zones and utilizing the staff that we have currently to provide coverage and outreach in all 4 of those zones on a 7 days a week schedule already.
Okay, thank you. And so if a Tempe resident sees somebody that might need some help, a homeless person that might need some help, what number should they be calling to notify the HOPE team?
So the best way to reach the HOPE team is typically to actually send an email to hope@tempe.gov. So that's an email address that goes to every HOPE specialist that's on my team, including myself. And we use that information to deploy the staff that's in that zone or the staff that's readily available to go and address the concern that's coming in via that email. Folks can also reach out to 311 and 311 then contacts us via the hope@tempe.gov email to let us know of the outreach need. And then we go ahead and use that to deploy team members to address the concern and try to find that individual and provide outreach and service to them.
Okay, thank you. And I just want to give a big shout out to University Presbyterian Church for having the Project Connect. That was an incredible event. I think I was there for 4 hours, 3 hours on that event. But anyway, they were so gracious for opening up their church and allowing us to have that there. And the point in time count was incredible. Our team, in our count, I think we got 40 people that we counted in just our small area. But we did find one woman who was really sick and we were able to get her to the hospital. So I just want to shout out all the volunteers that went out there that got there at 5:30 in the morning to start counting at 6. It was absolutely incredible. I'm glad you had a wait list. That just shows you how many incredible people we have in Tempe with really big hearts that want to help. So thank you. And thanks for your work, Jessica. Joel?
No, yeah, thank you. I mean, this is outstanding. Once again, just the whole collaborative approach of community here just to help each other out, but also help public safety out and to make sure that we're addressing the needs when we can. So it was brought up at the beginning of the meeting as a question from the one of the cards. I know that with homelessness, it's one of those things where you might touch once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. It might take several touches before someone might take a service, and even if the services are taken, they might relapse again. But with that, are we tracking or able to track the, how would I say it, the people that we do touch when they do accept services, how far do they get with the services, people that get the wraparound, the housing and everything? Do we track the possible relapse or the continuation so they don't? And I know that this is a tough animal. I know that especially in the wintertime, we have an increase in homeless population just because of our climate. but it seems like that with that, are we increasing? Are they staying? Are they going? Are we? So I know that with the point in time, we're going to be able to capture those and compare those with next year. But the test, just an example of the test or the questions that might be asked, so that we could hear it possibly, and just kind of some of those other things I was talking about, just in terms of data collecting and making sure that what we're doing and what we're achieving, we're seeing, effective approach. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. Thank you for that. I think that in response to the question earlier, I think it was a testament really to the extra efforts that our team has to have, and the patience and the continued trust building and rapport building and continued ongoing engagements. There's individuals that our team has engaged with for a very long time, and sometimes after months, even years, they will be willing to accept shelter once connected to the proper resources, they've stabilized with whatever their needs are. That's the art of outreach specialists and homeless outreach, I think, is really identifying what the individual needs are for each of these folks that we're meeting, and working to build that rapport with that ongoing engagement, ongoing, touches, and ongoing just one-on-one conversations. And then eventually being able to connect them, to shelter and to housing. That's our main goal. But we don't stop trying is what I want to say. Is our team is consistently out there working to engage with these folks. On the other question and point that you brought up about tracking and information, one of the good things is that as a continuum and as a county, we utilize a system called HMIS to track much of the data that you mentioned and brought up there. So having that information and being able to see where folks go from where we are with them, that information is available to us. And I think that the strategies that we've implemented are best practice strategies that we're using to fine-tune our approach and continue to make sure that we're using data-driven methods to serve the community to the best of our ability, and really try to reach all of the individuals that are experiencing homelessness and connect them with shelter in the city.
Right, absolutely, and absolutely agree that way. I mean, obviously there's things that, being nimble and be able to change, and things that we learn, and especially, as I said before, our partnership with like ASU and things like that, learning studies, what can we do to get people a little bit more engaged? I know that recently me and Doreen, Councilman Garland, we're at you're going to kill me, aren't you? We're at the park. They had a little open park feeding on Tuesdays. And there are individuals, I mean, even that I worked with over 15, pushing 20 years I've known. And a lot of them have been, this is where, for some of them, this is where they're at. They choose to be this in homelessness, or they just choose to be where they're at, I guess. Not to say that when they do need help or when they do need services, they know where to get them. And that's a good thing. And I think that, with all that said, there's the new, younger, and the families that really have the chance, or we really have the potential to get the ones that are just becoming homeless, and really kind of hoping to drive that number down, especially so that we're not increasing the homelessness throughout Arizona. And this is just not a state issue, it's everywhere. So thank you.
That's correct. Thank you. And we do have specific performance measures for trying to ensure that homelessness is rare, brief, and one time.
Gotcha. Perfect.
Thank you, Jessica. And you're up next, Joel, just in case if you get lost, there's my name right there. You're up, Joel. I gotcha.
It is gonna hurt. Okay. So we are, let's see, next, I guess, items for consideration. We have items for consideration from February 25th. HSCS Council Committee will be one ordinance on flavor tobacco, and the second, an update on the Chief's Office of Community Policing. That's going to be February 25th as we get that information. Our next meeting, obviously, is February 25th at 12 p.m. And if there is no questions, we are adjourned.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thank you, Doreen.
Goodbye, Joel.